What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. Casino is laughing because we've had nothing but technical issues this morning, and I literally just almost started the podcast without hitting record. So, I'm Will. That's Casino over there. What's going on, Casino? You know what?
No. What?
No. Usually I ask you, but now I'm just gonna ask both of us. How we been?
Pretty good. There's apparently somebody at my front door just now. Let's see what's going on. Oh, Amazon package. Okay.
Bam. Nothing can stop us now.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm really glad that my dog didn't notice that because my son just went to sleep. So that'd been fun.
Yeah. But we are back, Casino.
We are back.
Since last Thursday. Our YouTube channel, and I'll tell you what, the audio version and the YouTube channel, we've been blowing up last couple weeks.
So thank you, new subscribers. We plan to disappoint. Don't worry.
Yeah. We've gotten like 5 new subscribers, over almost 500 views for our like no name podcast in the past 2 weeks. So that's crazy.
I mean, but where else are people going to get their sports content?
That's true, because they can only watch TV. There's no other sports podcasts. Weird thing for there not to be other sports podcasts. There's of course sports radio shows, but you have to listen to them live.
There's so many.
Yeah. But if you go to our YouTube channel, The Only Sports Podcast, you can watch the full episode, or you can just watch clips of the different segments I'll break up. And then you get if you just want the audio and don't want to see our beautiful faces, you can listen wherever you get your podcast. So with that being said, Casino, you ready to dive into the show? Yeah.
Sure.
Look at how gray my beard is getting.
Look at how white my face is.
Your face is very white. But it makes me look very tan, which I like.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know what to do. It's where the only place that I can actually do the podcast and have my computer set up where I don't get any natural light. So I have to turn on all the lights in my house.
Wait, turn on your phone light and shine it at your face. Let's see how much of a difference this makes. Because this is the difference with me. It just makes my face look so much more red than it already is. Oh, oh my God. You just look sick now. Yeah. God. I really do forget we are just 2 of the whitest people on the planet.
We are really white.
We
are really white. I don't know why you're always so red. Do you just throw on blush before getting on the show?
I don't know. I'm literally never outside, so for my face to be this red, it's an anomaly.
And for whenever I am outside, I'm typically still wearing jeans and long sleeve shirts in Vegas.
Yeah, and you do the Michael Jackson. By the way,
I'm bringing it back.
A famous shirt on this podcast, the Tramp from Lady and the Tramp. But Casino also
he's eating spaghetti. My wife's got my wife's got the lady one where if we stand next to each other, it looks like they're eating. Oh, my bad.
No, that'll be when I put on this sweater and we're
there. It
is to each other, which would be funny. I'm gonna buy the other sweater, then surprise you one day on the podcast by wearing the lady sweater. And then we can, but today, Casino, we are not here to talk about the ladies or the Tramps. We are here to talk about the NFC West. So we finished the AFC last Thursday. Now we're diving into the NFC. The schedule, we'll do NFC West today, South on Thursday. Next week, we'll do North on Tuesday, East on Thursday. And then the week after that, we're doing just our MVP picks, Super Bowl picks, and then we're making our week 1 picks. So NFL season, I believe, is 2.5 weeks away, which is crazy. It's crazy that it's already back.
Yeah. And if we were going to do ourselves fantasy, we should do it now. We should do it now. But
I am actually doing my draft for my big money fantasy league on not this Monday, but next Monday. So
yeah, I'm really sad. So I actually ran into my old commissioner. They they're also in the same industry I'm in, and him and his brother were at my work, and his brother's wife, because his brother's wife and his brother won the last two times. Um, and so I was in there. I was like, "Why aren't we doing this? You told me is this too difficult for you, and whatnot?" And well, his brothers told me that two people dropped out. The two people I don't know who they were, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we just couldn't find two more people." You shitting me? You shitting me? Come on, this is my
Yeah.
only league that I ever play in that I
I'll
don't want to.
join.
So here's my issue. My issue with the fantasy, and I've tried it outside of this league. We've tried to do it with our spouses and other people that just people don't play. They don't set their lineups. They don't pay attention. It just doesn't make it fun. And it's always just you and me fighting it out in the end. I typically lose. It's okay.
Sounds great to me. It
I
sounds
mean,
great to me.
combined, we have like 3 losses for the entire season always. And
Yeah.
then, like, I want a fun competitive league, but people who aren't taking it too seriously, but I
Yeah.
wanna enjoy it. So, yeah.
Hopefully, one year we'll be able to do one with listeners and we can have exactly that, Casino,
Well,
because
we've
of
already
our.
passed the 1-year mark.
That's true. Well, this is technically this is
2.
the start of year 3.
Yeah, that's insane.
This
I
is
mean,
insane.
I'm sure that a couple of our listeners would wanna do it, so if you're listening, you got my number, reach out to me. We got
There you go.
this.
Yeah, or comment down below and, I mean, we need, like, 8,
You're right, you're right.
right? So
I don't have 500 friends.
but let's before we talk fantasy casino, or since we talk fantasy, let's talk reality.
Fantasy football. Let's get
Yeah,
I have
off.
fantasies. I have fantasies.
That's a whole separate podcast we'll get to eventually. But as of right now, Casino, we're talking NFC West. And when we talk NFC West, we have to talk about the Super Bowl runner up last year. That's the San Francisco 49ers.
Who?
And the simple question, Casino, is can they make it back to the very Super Bowl they lost in OT last year to the Chiefs?
Definitely. Especially if they're keeping Brandon Ayuk. I know that, he wasn't a huge factor in the playoffs. He played well, but still keeping a good receiver draws defenses to that guy. He's still a big name. He's still a good receiver, especially during the regular season. They have all the chances to get back to the Super Bowl again. There's a few teams. I feel like this is fairly close to what we're going to see from last year in NFC contenders. So yeah, to me they definitely have a real shot.
So let's speaking of their last year, let's talk about a casino. So last year they were the number 1 seed in the NFC, finishing 12-5. They won by 3 points in the divisional round against the Packers. Also won by 3 points against the Lions in the NFC Championship game, and then lost by 3 points in OT to the Chiefs. So that is crazy that especially when we're going to get to their ranks, how dominant they were, and they won or lost every game in the playoffs by 3 points. That
Yeah, I
is
mean,
insane.
like I know we're gonna go through all these, but like realistically, the NFC is still gonna be pretty much the same. It's gonna be the Niners, the line from last year, Niners, Lions, Eagles. Realistically, I think the Packers are gonna have a decent year. As well as the Bucks gonna have a decent year. I think the Falcons are gonna have a decent year. But this is not the AFC. I feel like the AFC is so much more jam packed with talent than the NFC. So
Yeah.
I think there's all reality that this team can be the number 1 seed in the NFC again, and with a few other teams, and make it to the Super Bowl. Their chances are very high.
I agree, especially if they can keep on track what they did last year. They were
Yeah,
second in total offense, fourth in passing, third in rushing, eighth in total defense, 14th against the
yeah.
pass, third
I
against
would
the
have to
run.
say that they have about a 1 in 5 chance to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. And also, Casino, now that we've looked back, let's look into the future. Their ranks going into this season, and again, I use PFF because I think they're the most accurate rankings. This one actually shocked me. They are 24th ranked in the league in offensive line play. So they have a bottom tier offensive line. They lost a couple guys this offseason. Didn't really bring in that many people on the offensive line either. So we might see that be a liability. And we've
That's
kind
okay.
of seen it.
That's fair. I'm going to stop you there. That's fair. But who do they have in the backfield that is the best Swiss Army knife in the league?
Well, and then I also brought in some other ranks from PFF that we'll use for all NFC teams. And this bolsters your point right here. They have the number 1 ranked wide receiving core, the number 2 ranked defensive line, and the number 2 ranked linebacker unit going into this season. So they are
There you
1
go.
or 2 in almost every category that matters, except offensive line. And where right now would you put Brock Purdy on the quarterback tier list? Because I know he is a big topic of discussion and has been since he started in the league, but is he a top 10 quarterback, top 15, bottom half? Where would you put him?
I overall definitely in the top 15 for me right now, because he did, everybody was like, oh, that one year was a fluke, and well, he came out and he produced the second year. So I think he's going to do just fine. I think he's a really good quarterback. He reads. Yes, he's got the weapons for it. As you said, they got the number 1 wide receiver group out there. And he's got the reliability of Christian McCaffrey that he can dump it off to whenever he needs to. So apparently my daughter's very hungry, which is she just quick topic. Kids eat like crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Like this kid has been just eating nonstop all day. And it's not like she's running around the house being super active today. She's kind of just relaxed. We got swim class later, so she'll get her workout in later. But it's just like
it's growing
dude,
pains.
they just grow like weeds. Anyway, no, I think he's really good. Especially in the NFC.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be tough to beat. I mean, especially let's just call it in this division alone. I think he's the best quarterback in this division.
You would take him over Stafford, or you would just take the.
Oh, you're right. The Rams. Stafford's great. Okay. Overall, I would choose Stafford. Yes,
But with
but
the team around him,
with the team around him, I would pick Purdy.
Yeah,
Currently.
I agree. And then I also, when we'll get to the Rams, I was also shocked by their offensive line rankings as well. So I don't think it's any debate. You put Stafford on this San Francisco team, and they were 12-5 last year. Maybe they're 3 wins better, 2 wins better. But again, that's not saying much because the 49ers were the number 1 seed in the NFC. So it's not like those wins would have really mattered more than they already finished.
I mean,
but
and so like last year, everybody was like, oh, Brock Purdy, like everybody has so much hate for him still. They're like, oh, he's a good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. It's because he's got all those weapons around him, this and that. Okay, fair point. If you want to call it that, and that's how you want to view it, fair point. Not going to say you're 100% wrong, but also you have to be a good quarterback to know how to utilize those players, and he does.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. And he only had a little bit of a slump last year, and that was because he had a concussion, never was confirmed. But the dude was rocked, and he played bad for like 2 to 3 games, and you could see it. And after that, he was right back to his normal self.
Well, it's
And
also
I don't blame him in the Super Bowl for the loss.
No. Well, it's also like weird people who are like, oh, Brock Purdy's terrible. He's terrible. He's terrible. But then at every turn, they'll be like, but you know who's really good? Sam Darnold. And it's literally like if you would have swapped and made Purdy a 1st-round pick and Darnold a 7th-round pick, the conversations would be like polar opposite of each other. But for some reason, acting like a quarterback got drafted in the first 6 rounds just makes them infinitely better. It's like we've seen the greatest quarterback to ever play this game was the 6th round pick. So why are we now just like first round pick or bust. It's so, I don't know. I just don't
I
understand
mean,
it.
and just being a Patriot fan right now, coming out of, we've talked about it whenever we did the AFC East, was that Milton is our sixth rounder is outperforming the third overall pick.
Yeah.
Like it happens. It happens, and until you can prove yourself in the NFL, doesn't mean if you're good in college doesn't mean you're going to be great in NFL. In any
No,
sport,
it's,
in any
yeah.
sport, in college to professional level, it's completely different. Some people thrive off of it when they're not playing the best in college because they just have a different mindset. And then those who expect to be great in professional sports fall flat. It just happens. It happens all the time.
Yeah. But and then when we talk about this 49ers team, so they still have Kyle Shanahan. Fans of this podcast know how I feel about Kyle Shanahan. I think he's an overrated coach. I think situationally he's really bad. I think you can almost blame him solely for the way that both the Falcons lost the Super Bowl when he was the offensive coordinator with the play calling, and then how the 49ers at both bites of the apple lost 10-point leads. So again, not a fan of Kyle Shanahan. Not that I don't think he's talented or a good head coach. I just think situationally he kind of rings the same bells as an Eagles fan that Andy Reid did, where it was just baffling choices they make late in games and to control the game and the flow of it and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, Andy Reid overcame that when he went to KC, but when he was at the Eagles, that was a big issue. But the 49ers actually do not have an offensive coordinator because Kyle Shanahan is technically their offensive coordinator / head coach. So they have Chris Forrester, who helps along with the run game coordinator and offensive line. And then they promoted Nick Sorensen as their defensive coordinator. The previous 2 years, he was defensive passing and game specialist. So they have a new defensive coordinator. And then in free agency, they got Leonard Floyd, the defensive end from the Bills, and then just a lot of depth. They picked up 3 linebackers, 2 defensive tackles, a defensive end, a guard, 3 cornerbacks, an offensive tackle, safety, wide receiver, a quarterback, and then another quarterback, Casino, who is lighting up preseason, and that is the Pastronaut, Josh Dobbs, who is putting on a show preseason. And I've already seen, I kid you not, we just talked about it. The Purdy hate has reached new levels of absurd. I've already seen Josh Dobbs, hype to be like, should Purdy be worried? Should Purdy be worried that Josh Dobbs is coming for his job? And it's like, no, unless it's injury or the concussion thing. No, he shouldn't. That would be insane. We saw Josh Dobbs with the Vikings. Was it last year, 2 years ago, where it's like he has a couple 3 or 4 games here and then he gets figured out and he kind of crumbles. So him being a professional quarterback playing against second and basically third string players, I don't think is cause for celebration or alarm if you're a 49ers fan. I think he's a very good backup and he can win you some games. But again, backup quarterbacks you want to count on to win a couple games if need be. You don't want them to be the starting quarterback. But as far as the last thing we'll talk about with the Niners before we make predictions,
You mean the last thing you talk about since I just walked away for half the show?
Is what they did in the draft. And this has directly to do with Ayuk, who apparently there is a deal in place for Ayuk and he's just not signing it for whatever reason. So
It's probably not what you want.
Yeah, Saturday, right after we recorded our last podcast, it was like the news breaking was like Ayuk has a deal with the 49ers, and it sounded like they just agreed to it and everything was good. But as of Tuesday, when we're recording this, he apparently has not signed it, and still the predictions are that he goes to the Steelers. So,
which is insane because that deal's been on the table forever.
And like it's being reported where it's like, well, they only offered him less than $28 million. And it's just like, what do you think it's not like the Niners are going to offer him 50 million, right? It's like I don't know. That's the whole situation so weird. But if you read anything about it online, which I've tried to read as much as I could about it, the prediction still is that week 1 he's going to be a Steeler. So good news for who they drafted, which was they drafted Ricky Purcell out of Florida with the 31st overall first round pick. Then they followed it up with a cornerback in the second round, offensive tackle, safety, running back, wide receiver, offensive guard, linebacker. So interesting that they are rated the number 1 wide receiving group in the league based on PFF rankings, and their number 2 borderline number 1 wide receiver might not be on the team at the start of the season. So thoughts on
Well,
just
that's what
the
they're basing it
49ers.
off. They're basing it off of what they got right now. Right now, he's a Niner.
Do you think he stays a Niner?
I do. I mean, the fact that it's been in limbo this long, I just feel like it's going to get to the point. It's like, you're not going to play unless you just stay. Because, I mean, the Steelers, they've already got stuff going on there. Like, he hasn't even looked at that playbook. Obviously, you're not allowed to do any of that stuff until you're part of the team. So, I mean, even if the Steelers do get him, he's not going to start week 1. And if he is, it's going to be the simplest, out route plays, kind of stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think he just sticks with the Niners. He
And
knows that. And the Steelers are not a Super Bowl team. Like, you would only be going to the Steelers. You're going to go to the Steelers to get paid. Get paid. If you want to win a championship, you're going to stay with the Niners. That's your best shot this year.
Yeah. And then
or you could have gone to the Patriots and you could have won too.
And then obviously the elephant in the room with this 49ers team is Christian McCaffrey has had injury history. Deebo Samuel has had injury history. George Kittle has had injury history. They've had the injury bug on the defense. So again, this 49ers team can go as far as 3 things can carry them. As far as Kyle Shanahan can carry them, which we've seen, he can take them to the promised land, just not get over the hump yet. I'm not saying he won't, but that's what we've seen so far. I mean, it is crazy to think in Kyle Shanahan's 3 trips to the Super Bowl, he had a 28-3 lead and then 2 10-point leads going into, I believe the first one was 10-point lead into the fourth quarter. I think the second one against the Chiefs, it wasn't 10 points into the fourth quarter, but to think in his 3 Super Bowl appearances, one as an offensive coordinator, he had 28-3, 10-0 lead, 10-0 lead, and lost all 3 of them. Again, I'm not a fan of Kyle Shanahan, but I respect him and I think he's a good coach. But the way people give this guy,
wow, that was the first praise you've ever said about that guy.
Well, the way he's just given unlimited blowjobs is just like, it annoys me. Like, everybody's like one of the best coaches.
Have you heard that Belichick was thinking about joining the Niners?
I mean, as like a defensive coordinator, that would have been really interesting. Like defensive coordinator slash like
last I heard, it was just
coach.
Bill Belichick. Rumors, Niners.
Well, now the rumors are if Nick Sirianni gets fired this offseason, Bill Belichick's going. Basically, it's written on the wall that he's going to be the Eagles head coach.
Gotcha.
But
Kyle Shanahan apparently did decline that did say that Bill Belichick declined, politely declined an offer from the 49ers. I don't think Belichick comes out of retirement. I think he's done.
I think he takes one more bite at the apple. I hope it's not for the Eagles because I think kind of the game has passed him by.
I feel like he would only do it if he was a head coach.
Yeah, I would take him maybe as like a
dude. If he's the best defensive coach to ever live, in my opinion.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if you get him as like a defensive coordinator on your team, I think you're golden. Because even in the bad days of the Patriots, they've always had great defenses, right? Like
all the time.
Yeah.
Like even the last couple of years.
Yeah. That's what those were the bad times, Casino.
Oh.
But let's move off the 49ers. The over under with them is 11.5. Both Casino and I picked over. The only thing I would be worried about this team again is the injuries, and then the Super Bowl hangover, because we've seen just how trying to get back to a Super Bowl just really wears your team down. So The over-under right now is basically them having the exact same record as last year. They didn't lose anybody unless they lose IU.
No, they did. They the Niners. Got it. Yes.
Yeah. Now let's move on to the Los Angeles Rams casino. Still, I hate saying Los Angeles Rams, Los Angeles Chargers. It just doesn't feel natural.
No.
But that is
why does LA have to take everything, man?
well, I'll tell you what. We went there to see an Eagles game. I couldn't spot one Los Angeles Rams fan in that stadium.
They should have stayed the St. Louis Rams. They should have stayed the St. Louis Rams.
They should have. And they should have stayed the San Diego Chargers because I always loved that stadium where it had the flags up hanging. I always loved that stadium.
I mean, not even just football, man. Like, I hate, like, the Angels are called, like, what is it? The Anaheim, Los Angeles, Anaheim Angels or something.
Well, they used to be the Anaheim Angels. Now they're the Los Angeles Angels without moving or changing where they were.
Yeah, they're in Anaheim.
Yeah. And it also rolls off the tongue better. Anaheim Angels. Los Angeles ain't like that doesn't roll off. Yeah. And then everybody has to do that. But let's talk about the Los Angeles Rams casino, not the St. Louis Rams. Last year.
Get us started on that. I'm going to grab a charger for my computer and let my dog out.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm just letting the people know, like, because we are just so lackadaisical here on this podcast. We are just fathers first, doing father things.
It's true. That's why Casino calls me daddy. The Los Angeles Rams casino. Last year they went 10-7 and lost in the wild card round 24-23 to the Lions in the Matthew Stafford homecoming game. Yes, I did say they lost. They lost 24-23. Let's look at their offensive rankings and defensive rankings for last year. Last year in total offense, they were 7th in the league, 10th in passing, 11th in rushing, 20th in total defense, 20th against the pass, 12th against the run. Their over-under going into this season is set at 8.5. Casino actually said the Rams would go under 8.5. I said they would go over 8.5. And according to PFF, their rankings going into the season for O-line is 16th in the league. Wide receiver is 8th. Defensive line is 23rd. And then linebacking core is 25th. They still have the same head coach in Sean McVay, who is entering his 7th season. They brought over Mike LaFleur, who spent 2 seasons as the Jets offensive coordinator. So that scares me. And then they brought in, they promoted their defensive coordinator, Chris Shula. He was the linebacker and pass rush coordinator for this team, promoted to defensive coordinator. So let's first, when we talk about this Rams team, and then I'll talk about free agency and the draft casino. They finished last season 10-7. Their over-under this year is 8.5. I have them going over that win total. You have them going under. Why do you think this team will underperform compared to what they did last year, Casino?
Yeah, I was paying attention to all that. Which team?
Basically, my question, Casino, is right there. The Rams, do they have one more run in them? You are saying no because you picked them to go under their 8.5 projected win total this season. Why?
Who did they lose on defense?
They lost the GOAT, Aaron Donald.
There you go. That's a huge reason for me why they're not going to go. I mean, defense, everybody says the defense wins championships. You had multiple time defensive player of the year, and he's an absolute monster. I just don't see them being able to be as competitive as they were without Aaron Donald. Everybody's scared. Like, everybody was scared of him. Yeah.
Well, and Aaron Donald, legitimately, you could make a case, might be one of the best defensive players, like not of this era, like ever. Right?
That's
like,
fair.
Yeah. So I agree with you there. However, when you look at their defensive rankings for last year, again, they were 20th in total defense, 20th against the pass, 12th against the run. So it's not like they had a dominant defense with him there to begin with.
No, but okay, you take that away. How far do you think they plummet?
Well, that's true. And the two new coaches scare me. Mike LaFleur from the Jets. I mean, the Jets offense the past 2 seasons, what was it? It was dead last in the league. Right? And
Exactly.
I know he was working with, our favorite quarterback, the MFer himself, Zach Wilson, but again, if you would have put Matthew Stafford on those teams, are they all of a sudden a top 10 offense? Maybe, but I doubt it, right? It didn't feel like Zach Wilson was the only issue when it came to the offense of the Jets. They never finished, or they never figured out their O-line. Already going into this season, the O-line is going to be basically middle of the road. So I did pick
I
over
mean,
because
yeah.
I still think this is a 9-win team, but I don't think this is an 11,
Okay, let me
12.
ask you this. Are you not concerned at all with Stafford missing time because of his hamstring tightness and soreness that he's been having?
Oh, no. Stafford, again, when we talk about the injuries the Niners have had, I mean, the elephant in the room for most teams is injuries. When we talk about the Bengals last week, I was scared to stake my flag into the Bengals because of Joe Burrow's injury history. I'm scared to stake my flag on the Los Angeles Rams strictly because of Matthew Stafford, right? Because we've seen him, he's been banged up in his career a couple times, but the last couple of years, it's been Super Bowl or injured. That's
Right.
like been the
And do you think
pattern.
that he's finally fixed his problem with his disconnect with his younger players?
No, I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I
I
mean,
mean, no amount of Disneyland trips will ever fix this.
that's true. And then you have his
That's a
wife.
callback to last season for you, for those new subscribers.
And then you
Yeah.
have his wife going on podcasts being like, I was dating his backup to get him jealous and like all this kind. And you're just like, I feel bad for, and then they're doing like mattress commercials. It's just, the jokes write themselves. We won't say them here, Casino, but,
He got his ring. He did what he needed to do.
and she
You
got
know,
hers. So
there it is.
congrats. But let's see who they added in the offseason. They added two cornerbacks, Williams and Tre'Davious White from
What a
the
shit name.
Jags and the Bills. Trey Devarius White. I think that's a great name. They got the porn star dating quarterback himself, Garoppolo. They got
Good for
Cameron.
him. You know what? No, good for him. Come on, man.
I agree.
Don't knock on him.
And I'll tell you what, Garoppolo, nobody is more. I mean, he's like reaching Sam Bradford levels of making a shitload of money and never playing because he's injured. He's in that Hall of Fame where he just keeps getting signed to teams, even though he can't stay healthy to save his life, which I
Dude,
always feel bad
he's
for
such
those
a
players.
nice guy.
And
Like,
all his teammates are like, I will literally die for him.
dude, I
So he
mean,
seems like a great guy.
how he handled that whole debacle with San Fran about the quarterback and being traded and like just that whole thing, dude, that he took that so well off the chin. He was just like, it's okay.
It sounds
I
like
had a
his
great
porn star girlfriends.
yeah, all day. Thank you. I was working my way over there. But he has to be such a nice guy to date a porn star. Be like, honey, I got to go do my job. There's going to be 3 others over there. Okay. That's you go do
he's
what you got
also
to do.
he's also probably like, yeah, I'm gonna go do my job over here where there's also 3 over here for me. It was probably a mutual. I mean, he's a
Well,
handsome man.
he's a handsome man. Like
Very handsome.
when you think starting quarterback, like
It's
you
his
picture
face.
picture
Yeah.
Garoppolo. He's just the smolder.
He
I
looks,
mean,
yeah, he looks like a Disney character.
yeah.
He does.
He's the Flynn Rider of football.
But besides Garoppolo, they also got Cameron Curl, Jonah Jackson, the guard from the Lions, a tight end
And
from
none of them
Seattle.
look as good as Garoppolo.
None of them. But I do like the additions of basically they helped their entire back end secondary. Again, not talking about Garoppolo's girlfriends with the
God
back end.
damn it, that's what I was thinking. I
But-
was literally like, my mind was going that direction. That was great.
But yeah, 2 cornerbacks, and a safety, all of which I like, all of which have been productive players in this league. So again, it comes down to, can the new coaches assimilate under Sean McVay, which I think we've seen Sean McVay have a pretty impressive coaching tree and know how to like elevate people that he trusts to higher success than they have without him. So again, I don't again, the red flags when it comes to the Los Angeles Rams are uh the retirement of Aaron Donald and then the durability of Matthew Stafford. And then also apparently in preseason, they just have another rookie wide receiver who's like just amazing. So who's ever doing this scouting for their wide receivers with the Rams, like they just find a diamond in the rough every draft. Last year it was Puka Nakua. Now it is a guy whose name I'm going to look for right now. But
Fun fact: I actually know somebody who dated Puka's brother.
really,
Yeah.
and was she like, I always knew he would be great?
No, we didn't talk much more about it, but she just mentioned that somebody that she used to date
I
was Puka Nakua's brother.
I think it was their 6th round pick from Texas, Jordan Whittington. I think that's the wide receiver that like had a crazy good game last preseason, but also in the draft in the 1st round, pick 19. Also first year in forever, I feel like the Rams have had a 1st round pick, right? They were just kept trading them away for a 5-year period. But they took Jared Verse, the edge rusher out of Florida State, defensive tackle, then a running back, safety, another edge, and then the guy we just talked about. So I don't know. You still feel confident in your underpick, Casino?
Yeah, I do.
All right. I'm wavering on my overpick. So that's where our mindsets are. Let's move on, Casino, to the Seattle Seahawks, a team that I couldn't think of anything to say. So I literally just said, is there anything here with this team? With Seattle,
No,
I
they
mean,
had their flash 2 years ago. Everybody was excited, or was that
yeah.
last year? I don't even remember. I'll
Well,
be honest.
it was 2 years ago because last
Yeah, yeah,
year,
yeah. Okay, I was right. I'm right.
yeah.
Trust myself. Trust myself.
Last year they went 9-8. They missed the playoffs.
My
They're-
brain's scrambled with kids, so
uh I was gonna make another porn star joke, but we'll go
please
on. We'll
do
go
it.
on.
Do it. You
Their
can't.
2023 rankings,
God
Casino.
damn.
In total offense, they were 21st in the league, 14th in the league in passing, 28th in the league in rushing. Their real downfall came on defense. They were 30th in total defense in the league, 21st against the pass, 31st against the run. Their over under going into this year is set at 7.5. Both you and I picked under. And then projected their projected groups according to PFF going into 2024, they have the 31st ranked offensive line in the league, 10th in the league in wide receiver group, 17th in the league in defensive line group, 16th in the league in linebackers. So what do we do with this team, Casino? I mean,
Just
are
forget
how
about them for the season?
it just seems so uninteresting to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing about the Seattle team is even sparking. I couldn't even think of a question to put here. There's really nothing.
Well, you
It,
did. You just put a question mark there because you have no idea.
well, I mean, anything here. I don't think there's nothing here. There's just not. I don't know what. If you're a Seahawks fan, like you're just hoping that you got a whole new coaching staff. So you brought Mike McDonald over as your head coach. He was with the Ravens for 9 years, their defensive coordinator the last 2. He brought over Ryan Grubb from the University of Washington, who was the offensive coordinator
Yeah.
there for 2 years. And then their defensive coordinator was the Cowboys D-line coach for the past 3 years. So all new coaching staffs, one guy who's never been a defensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator is coming over from college, and then the head coach has never been a
Yeah. And then
head coach. So
yeah, and a lot of those, a lot of those receivers whatnot. They're towards the end, in my opinion. They don't, they're going to have to deal with one or two quarterbacks. You got either Geno Smith or Sam Howell. It's going to just be take your pick. I don't know. I'm not looking up for this team.
Now, they drafted a defensive tackle in the first round,
Yeah.
really tried to bolster their defense in free agency. They brought over Leonard Williams, or no, I'm sorry, they re-signed Leonard Williams and Noah Fant, the defensive tackle, and then the tight end. They brought over an offensive tackle, two linebackers, both from the Dolphins and the Bills, and then kind of just had depth pieces, sorry. So, yeah, looking at this team going into this year, I just think it's going to be rough. This is maybe a sleeper pick for one of the worst teams in the league that I feel like nobody's talking about.
Fair
I
enough.
mean,
No, I
yeah,
mean, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at this.
yeah. I mean, when it comes to the Seahawks, is this the year, Casino, that the Geno Smith goodwill finally runs out? Or do you think it already ran out?
It already ran out.
Yeah, I think he had a decent I think he had a very nice resurgence. He had a decent comeback there, right? One comeback player of the year, because apparently you can win comeback player of the year from just
How many
being
times are you going to
bad.
say comeback?
Comeback refer to
Yeah, man. It reminds me of one of my favorite bloopers ever in a show. Have you seen that
the
blooper with
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
Golly. That's seriously one of the greatest blooper jokes of all time.
But in 2022, Geno Smith threw 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Last year, he threw 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But then they're switching from Carroll to a defensive coach, where I feel like that is just going to even lower his numbers even further, or just make him maybe not as good in the touchdown to interception ratio. So, yeah, I think to use the phrase my 12-year-old always says, I think this team is cooked. Not as cooked as our next team, which is a great segue that Casino missed because he's dealing with his kids. Luckily, both of mine are in school. So, sorry, Casino. But let me just get all this gobbledygook out of the way about this Arizona Cardinals team, because we just talked about the Seattle Seahawks maybe being a surprise worst team in the league. The Arizona Cardinals, I don't think will be surprising when they are one of the worst teams in the league. Last year, they went 4-13 and missed the playoffs, obviously. They were just bad. But you know what? Surprisingly, about as bad as Seattle in most of these categories, and they won 5 less games. So in total defense, they were 25th in the league, 13th against the pass, dead last, 32nd against the run. Total offense, they were 19th in total offense, 26th against the pass, 14th against the run, or I'm sorry, 4th in total offensive rushing, 26th in the league in offensive passing. Going into this season, their projected over under is 7.5. Casino and I both picked under. Going into the 2024 season, their offensive line is ranked 26th in the league. Their wide receiver group is rated 21st in the league, dead last in both defensive line and linebackers. So they are 32nd, have the 32nd worst ranked defensive line and linebacker core in the NFL, which is concerning considering your head coach is a defensive minded head coach, right? They brought over Murr from Impractical Jokers, aka Jonathan Gannon, maybe my number one enemy in the NFL, because I think he single-handedly lost the Eagles a Super Bowl against the Chiefs, but that's a rant for another time. They're bringing back both their offensive and defensive coordinator for all of them to be returning for their second year. You have Drew Petzing as the offensive coordinator and Nick Rawlis as the returning defensive coordinator. So in free agency, they tried to shore up that offensive line by bringing in Jonah Williams, the offensive tackle from the Bengals. They brought in DJ Dallas at running back from the Seahawks, Chris Moore, a wide receiver from the Titans, defensive tackle from the Bears, and then just a bunch of depth players to bolster, I mean, this Arizona Cardinals offense and defense that, again, 25th in total defense, 19th in total offense. So in the draft, and again, I'm just stalling for time for Casino to get back, but in the draft, they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., the star wide receiver from Ohio State University. Then they brought in Darius Robinson by trading back into the first round to get the edge rusher out of Missouri. Second round pick, they got a cornerback, and then followed that up with running back, offensive tackle, tight end. So the question is, how good can this offense and defense be? So with their offense, they are obviously still piloted by Kyler Murray at quarterback, have James Conner at running back, fourth last year in rushing in terms of this team as a unit, but he was a big part of it coming over from, I believe it was the Steelers. So for wide receiver, they have Marvin Harrison Jr., Zay Jones, Greg Dortch, Zach Pascal, and then Trey McBride at the tight end. I honestly don't hate their offense. I think Kyler Murray, again, when he's not hurt or playing hurt, actually is a pretty damn good quarterback in this league and maybe one of the fastest players on the field at all times, unless they're obviously playing, the Chiefs or the Dolphins, two teams with just insane speed on them. Their defense, however, I think will be concerning because I feel like they didn't really add any key pieces to it to kind of shore up how bad they were last year. I mean, the offensive line also isn't going to be that good, but at least you have Kyler Murray who can get away from that offensive line, right? And buy time in the pocket and find receivers downfield. When it comes to the defense, I mean, who do they really have defensively besides like a Buda Baker, or who else? Who would be the other star defensive player on their team? I mean, I was going to say Kaiser White, their middle linebacker, but he's leading the worst linebacking core in the league. So even if he's great, he has nobody around him, right? So when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, again, projected over and under at 7.5. Casino and I both said under. I don't think there's really anything, especially, again, looking at their offense, I think they'll be fine. But defensively, I think this is going to be struggle to stop people, to score points, I just don't like this team's outlook for this future at all. At least with Seattle, you're kind of just like, maybe they could be middle of the road. When it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, Casino, will they be one of the worst teams in the league this year?
Definitely. I liked Kyler Murray when he first came on the scene. I liked the speed. I liked the little agility that he used to have. It reminded me of like Darren Sproles, but as a quarterback.
Yeah.
But I just don't trust him. I don't like his attitude. I don't like, especially after he got paid, it got even worse. They don't know how to manage their team.
Their head coach is Murr from Impractical Jokers.
All day. I mean, who on this team would stand out to you?
This is why we're hosting a podcast. I literally just said that same exact thing about their defense.
Oh yeah, sorry. I had to step away. I went outside. I went to go let my dog back in, and all of a sudden, my pool looked like it was a fucking jacuzzi. There was air coming in the vacuum, and it was just shooting out air. So I had to go make sure I get that taken care of, which I have to talk with my pool guy again. We've been trying to troubleshoot this for the last 3 weeks on why it keeps doing that. I'm just probably going to have to buy all new hoses. It is what it is. It sucks. Own a pool, they said. It'd be great, they said.
I've never heard that once. I've heard everyone say owning a pool when they move to a new house, they will never own a pool again. See, the move is to have friends with a pool.
Keeping upkeep with the pool, like itself, was tough to do by myself when I don't know how to do the water chemistry, all perfect, this and that. But I hired a guy. The pool looks great. The pool looks great. Like all the troubles I had last year with the pool in less heat, he's done better when it's even hotter out. So like I give him all the props for that. But I'm having issues with the stupid hose now. It's pulling in air.
Now you sound like Jimmy Garoppolo. Trouble with the hose.
All right, cool. Yeah, the Cardinals, they suck. They blow. Who on this team stands out to you? Yeah, I don't know. No, nobody.
What is it?
So you got what, Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, well, I think their offense will be all right because they were 4th in the league last year in rushing. So, and that was with
they have James Conner, they have Marvin Harris Jr.
Yeah.
You know,
and then when it
those
comes to
two.
Kyler Murray, as you just said, last year he only played 8 games. Previous year he only played 11. Previous year he only played 14. So he just can't. Again, the issue with him coming out of college was he's too small. Well, it looks like the longer he plays in the league, the more the hits are affecting him, right? Because every year he's missing more and more games. And again, that's the scary thing when you come into this league and you're a small quarterback, right? That's what everybody's fear is with Bryce Young. That's what everybody's fear is with Jaden Daniels. Like basically the Kyler Murray thing, which is like he's too small, so he runs around a lot, takes big hits, and now you have a franchise quarterback who you can't count on to play over half the games a season. So, but don't worry, they got Desmond Ridder as their backup quarterback. So all's good in Arizona, Casino. But anything else you would like to add on this podcast, Casino, or is this the end?
I think it's the end, as I've missed half of it.
But you were here for the important parts, and we just love to see your beautiful smiling white face. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. We'll be back on Thursday. I believe I said we are talking about the NFC South. Yes, the NFC South. And yeah, we'll see you Thursday. Look good. For clips of this show for the next 2 days. And then, adios.
Have a good one.